Hey guys, Cheri from The Watering Mouth here. I only have a few minutes because I just put the baby down and she hasn't been taking very long naps lately. So I wanted to show you a breakfast I've been making to substitute instead of doing a smoothie every morning because I've been sick of smoothies. Usually I find that when I get sick of smoothies, I need to switch it up and have vegetables for breakfast or something savory instead. So I've been having this breakfast lately, which is a chickpea veggie pancakes. And I'm going to show you how I make it because it's super quick. And I think it's important for us to have really quick meals that we can go to when we need to. So what I do first is I get out the vegetables, and it just kind of depends on what veggies I have at home. I have some leftover zucchini and green pepper and a little bit of leftover onion. I'm gonna put that in. If I had some mushrooms, I would definitely put those in. That's kind of what I have right now. And then I'm gonna put a little kale because I have some of this leftover, and a tomato. Okay, so my tomato is a little bit dead, but I'm just gonna use the other end of it. I got my other veggies here. I'm gonna put these in, and then I'm gonna grab my chickpea flour, which is right here. This is what I have left here. I'm gonna be using like about a quarter cup to a half a cup for one. So the first thing I do is I get the flour batter ready. Okay, so I just take a fork and the flour. So this is the one I'm using. It's Bob's Red Mill. It's just made of garbanzo beans, just chickpeas. So all you have to do, oops, sorry. That's embarrassing. I'm breastfeeding in my, okay, never mind. You just take some of this flour. So I'm gonna do, this is a half a cup. I'm gonna do a little less than that. There, so put that in there. Then I'm gonna take some water. Just add enough to kind of get it moving a little bit. I'm gonna put more in a second. And I just put a little bit in so it's really thick first, because then it's easier to mix and you don't get lumps in it. Then I'm also going to grab, this is a spice mixture. It's the Oshi Glows 10 spice powder, but I have 9 spices because I didn't put the salt in it. So all I do is just, I don't measure this. I usually just put like about a, half a tablespoon, teaspoon or so in there. And then I'm just going to mix it up like this. You'll see it gets nice and thick. And then what you do is just add water as you go. So you get it to be a really nice thick paste first. And you see how it's like super thick. So as you're making this thick paste, that makes sure that there's no lumps. Then when you add water in, just add a little bit at a time. Oh, that wasn't quite a little bit at a time, but it won't matter because I've already got it into a thick paste. Then as you start mixing it again, all the lumps come out. And that's a trick that I learned from my ex-mother-in-law when we were making Hungarian pancakes. And I've used it ever since, and it never fails. So see how it's a nice creamy batter now. So you want it to be a little bit thinner than this. And so I'm just gonna add a little bit more water. So then you just set this aside and you chop your vegetables. Okay, now we're going to make the pancakes. So I'm gonna grab my pan, and I use a non-stick pan. And the thing about this recipe is you actually, you don't have to use any oil, but I'm gonna use just a spray of this canola oil cooking spray. It's high heat. You don't have to use it, but I found when I don't use it that the batter sticks, and then it ends up being kind of, you have to sort of scrape it out, and it ends up being more like a scramble rather than a pancake, and I really like the pancake. So I just do a tiny bit of oil when I'm going to make the pancake. So let's talk a bit about water sauteing. So I'm just gonna put these in the pan and get them started while I'm talking. Cook them on about high until they are just a tiny bit soft. But if they start sticking, then I'm going to actually use the tomatoes and throw those in at that time, so the water from the tomatoes will help them not stick to the pan. Of course, we know water sauteing or steaming or things that involve water are the best ways of cooking, because then you don't form those acrylamides when you brown the food. So like roasting or baking, things like that end up browning food, and that's something you're trying to avoid because that has been shown to be cancer causing, so we try to avoid that. So I try to cook my food just enough so that it doesn't brown, but that it gives off enough water and it doesn't stick to the pan. And so I'm always thinking veggie wise, what's going to give off a lot of water. Like this zucchini is going to give off some water, onions give off a little bit of water as well. So as long as I don't cook them too fast and too hot, they'll be okay. That's why I have my tomatoes ready on the side, so I can just throw them in when it gets a little bit too warm, and those will give off enough water. If I had mushrooms, I would definitely add them to this dish. Those also give off a ton of water. So every time I add mushrooms, I know that I'm going to be not having to use any little bit of water when I water saute. Okay, so I have a little browning going on in the bottom of the pan, so I'm going to add my tomatoes now. Those give off some real good water. In a second, I'm going to add in the kale as well. And I'm the kind of person that doesn't care too much about veggies being totally cooked. I really still like them when they're firm and crunchy and everything too. So it doesn't really matter how much I cook these, but if you like them to be more cooked, you might want to use a little bit of water to saute. So now is the time I'm going to add in my kale. I chop this up. I'm going to actually add even a little bit of this spice powder into this part too, just so I can cook some of it. So it'll sort of bring out those flavors and smells, and oh, I can smell it right now. It's so yummy. Okay, so I have this right where I want it. I'm gonna add this straight into the batter. Now I just mix this into the batter. I'm gonna actually make a few pancakes so they're smaller, because that's what I want to do for the final photo for this. But usually when I make this, I just put all the batter in at once and cook it all in one big huge pancake and just flatten it out. And you are trying to avoid acrylamide, so you don't want to brown it too much if you can help it, but it's not a huge deal all the time. You know, you can't be perfect, but this is a yummy breakfast, so every once in a while is okay. See, we're getting more holes. That's a good sign. And you can see how it looks kind of cooked on the outside of the holes. That's a really good sign. Start working my way around with the spatula. Wish me luck. Yay! That worked out pretty good. It's a little dark, but that's okay. I'm just gonna let this cook for another minute or two, and then it will be done. Okay, so here is a finished pancake, and I'm gonna just serve this with low sodium salsa. I find that salsa is never really low sodium, but this is a really low sodium kind that I found at Sam's Club a while back. It has only 70 milligrams of sodium per serving, so that's better than anything I could find at Whole Foods. So that's really good with the pancakes, because I find they're a little bit dry. It's also really good to serve it with some fresh tomatoes on top, or even some sliced avocado. That's like the best if you have avocado and salsa, but I don't have any avocado. The chickpea flour itself isn't necessarily the best choice. It's great because it comes from beans, but it still is a processed food. So it's something you want to eat not very often if you can help it, but it's a better choice than using white flour, of course. All right, I have done the final photos for the pancakes, and it's time to eat. They're cold, but they're still good. So I hope you liked that video. Please let me know by liking, commenting down below. What do you think about this recipe? Have you ever tried something similar before? And subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also sign up for my email newsletter, so you'll get all the Watering Mouth updates as soon as I publish them. And please consider, of course, supporting me on Patreon, which is the new way to support me, help me make more videos. You can pledge just like $1 if you want, or $2. Anything really helps. So please check that out. And I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you in the next video. And also, check this out.